Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. It's my pleasure to introduce our next panel, featuring Radha Blank, the writer and director of the 40-year-old version, and along with the film's producer, Lena Waithe. So, Radha, I'm going to jump right in. So, this film is loosely based on your life. So, what spurred the decision for you to go from writing about other characters to turning inward to yourself?
First of all, happy to be here. I sound like someone's father because I'm recovering from our opening night party.
Which was lit.
And I don't know what I would call it loosely based. I might say tightly based because there's so many elements of my life that I'm kind of referring to in the film. My brother plays my brother. My friend Stacy plays my friend Stacy. Hi, Stacy. And so the question was, sorry, still recovering.
What was it?
Writing other characters for TV.
Right.
Oh, oh,
What
oh.
was the impetus behind turning the camera on yourself?
Oh, that impetus was always there. And honestly, I went into writing for TV to support myself. I've been writing plays for 20 years. Yes, I moisturize. So, but I mean, this, they call me a late bloomer, but I'm not the one who's late. I've
True
been
story, true
writing
story.
and telling stories and doing performance work for a very long time, and so it was just a matter of finding the right partnership. You know, people who could get behind my vision, and that sometimes takes a minute. But I've always wanted to tell this story, tell this New York story from my point of view. Yeah.
Sure. One thing, one of the themes in the film was you did a really great job at showing what happens when you have the wrong partner. So you're trying to get this play produced, and the woman who's brought in to help you with it just does not get it. So I wanted to talk about your and Lena's partnership with the 40-year-old version. How did that come about? How did you know that Lena was the right partner for this? And also, Lena, why you were excited about the film?
I met Lena maybe 6, 7 years ago when I'd first gone out to LA to work in TV, and it was like 6 months after my mom passed away, and so like if I connected with somebody, I connected with them. And her being from Chi-Town, me being from New York, constantly teasing each other about which one was more gonna go more Hollywood, show up to work with blonde hair and blue contacts. We just instantly clicked and stayed connected and always had conversations about the kind of work we want to make in the world. And she, at that time, had already produced Dear White People. So I know she was a producer on the rise. And it took a while for me to come around. I think because I'm always nervous about working with friends. I consider this person a very, very good friend. And,
It's real. It's real.
if I could chart how this thing happened, um, at least where Sundance is concerned, I remember being in the audience at Sundance in 2018, looking at something together and being like, we could do that. And then 2019, being at the Echoes Theater again with Lena and Rishi, who runs Film and Grad, and her turning to me and was like, yo, can I use colorful language?
Yeah, come on.
She's like, what the fuck is up with your movie? Like, you gonna let me help you or not? And all I had to say was yes. And she made for the perfect producing partner because, in layman's terms, she got out of my way. She trusted me. I think that's the most important thing, is that she trusted that I knew how to tell my own story. And she was there for moral support. The folks at Hillman Grad were there for moral support. But no one said, don't shoot on 35, don't shoot in black and white, don't be the star of your movie, which is what I heard over the course of 5 years. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, I took to Radha just as a person, and then as an artist, because, when you meet Radha, I mean, that's the interesting thing is watching people respond to the movie. It's like, yeah, I know that feeling when you see someone special. I was joking last night at the at the party. I was like, we're very Diddy and Biggie, like just live forever is all I ask. But you know what I'm saying? It's like it's a weird thing. You just see someone and you just know. And for a long time, I wasn't really in a position to say, yo, what the fuck is going on with your movie? But I was in a position to be frustrated about it. I would hear stories all the time. Rada knows we would always break bread whenever she would come back to LA, and we would always find time to link. And that would always be my question, like, where's it at? What's going on? And she'd always hit me with these sort of updates where I'm like, well, what? Why are they trying to make you do that? or why they need this, or that don't make no sense. I always had a producer brain when we'd be talking, and I would be like, well, you don't need this, you don't need that, and I would always feel like somebody should just get out of her way. And so finally, I got to a place in my career where I was like, I can push this movie through. I can figure it out. We can get it done. And and it really was true. I was like, Rod, I just need you to say yeah. I need you to trust me and go on this journey. And so the minute she said yeah, I took that like to heart, and I was like, all right, I gotta get this movie done. And so I just went to WME and I was like, you gotta find me a financier, preferably a black one. And they did. Jordan Fudge came into my life. Me and Rishi, we sat down with him even before, we talked to Radha, because I didn't want to get Radha's hopes up if it was going to be another false start. So I looked at him and I was like, dude, like, you got to write a check. He was like, I want to. And then he met with Radha over Skype, and it just clicked. And he's like, yeah, I'll write a check. I wrote one as well, just to make sure we had the cushion we needed, so she got everything she wanted. And it just was like, I told Risha, let's make sure we surround her with people. So, because it was her first feature, even though I knew she was like locked and loaded, I wanted to make sure, like, how they put those buffers on bowling alleys for kids? I wanted to make sure she wasn't going to throw no gutters, you know what I'm saying? But I also knew, that there's a thing I do with artists where I say, you got it. Whatever you want, I'm going to give it to you. So therefore, there's no one to blame if it blows up. But also, too, there's this thing of, and I think even me, like, writing a check, too, I think kind of scared Rod a little bit. But to me, it was almost like not to scare, but to let you know I put my money where my heart is, put my money where my mouth is, and where my gut is. And so it's like, I'm not afraid to write a check because I believe in you that much. And I know that you got what it takes to get it done.
Don't get me to crying up in here now.
No, it's real. It's real. And so that's all I had. I think sometimes people wonder, like, oh, how did you see this or how did it happen? I'm like, it's just belief. It's just belief, and it's just a knowing. And that's always knew. I would talk to Rishi. I'm like, this is going to be worth it, when we get to the end of this journey, because I know how special she is. And last night was just such a triumph, I think, for all of us, because we did the thing. It was like, this is what happens when you let a creative create. It doesn't do anything.
I think there's just something so empowering with in working with producers like Rishi and Lena, because I think, especially coming from working in TV and doing things collaboratively, where the studio is kind of always in charge, and sometimes they sit you down and they say, listen, Cookie can't walk around with no bra on. You know what I mean? But I was just throwing that out as an example. But like, yes, these are the people in charge, but I didn't feel like they were my bosses. I didn't feel like I would do things and get in trouble. And that is so liberating when you have the freedom to act on your impulses as an artist, as opposed to always wondering if someone is peeking and spying and checking you out and telling you no. I had enough no's.
And you had to unlearn that a little bit. Because there be times, remember one time you had texted me about, I think she was nervous about the 35 millimeter thing, or maybe somebody
Black and white. It
got crosswires. And she was texting me like, look, let me tell you why I think it should be done, and I can call people, and I can tell you what's
I had a
special.
dissertation.
And I was just like, what? And I'm always doing 1,800 things at once, and so when I'm texting her, I was like, what? Yeah, it's going to be lit. It's going to be lit. It's going to be lit. And she was like, what? No, what are you talking about? And I was like, what? I was like, what are you saying? She's like, well, I thought y'all wouldn't be cool with me shooting 35 million black and white. And I was like, what? No, shoot whatever you want. Yeah. I'm like, do whatever you fucking want.
And I think,
like,
what was beautiful was that there was a person who had miscommunicated something to me, and you said to them, leave her alone.
Yeah, that's true.
So Lena was my protector. Lena and Rishi was my protector, and that doesn't happen often. And I think it's so important that, there is an image presented in the making of this film. That step and repeat, to me, was monumental. To have Black and brown people, to have queer people, people who are typically in the margins, as the people who financed and gave this film the green light. And I think because many of the people who financed the film looked like the people in the film, there wasn't this question. It wasn't a big risk. It was a no-brainer for them. Whereas other times there was so many questions about, well, what if Tiffany Haddish played the 40? You know what I mean? Whereas this wasn't. That's why hashtag Trust Black Women is from 2019 beyond. That's my hashtag Trust Black People, hashtag Trust Brown People, hashtag. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I want to talk a bit about the content, because you really deal with some very serious issues. You talk about gentrification. You talk about how hard it is to break into theatrical spaces if you're not doing what the film calls poverty porn. But there's so much humor. So how did you strike that balance? Because it's like 1 minute I'm like thinking really deeply, and then the next I'm cracking up. So how did you, when you were writing, how did you strike that balance, and how did you know, like this, like how did you perfect your comedic timing?
I didn't. I didn't. I think my friends who are here, hey guys, I think they'll tell you I'm a funny person. And my intention is not necessarily to make someone laugh, but is to maybe touch somebody or make them feel better or just tickle them with an idea. And trust me, I did not know the script would be received or the film would be seen as funny. Franklin Leonard is like my big bro, although I think he's younger than me. And
Mine
he was
too.
the first person who actually affirmed for me that this was a comedy. Because I wasn't calling it that. I was just like, a story in black and white. And he told me he was reading the script on the plane and he was laughing so loud that people were like, bruh, ain't nothing that funny at this altitude, you know? And he told me that, and I was like, are you for real? He said, no, I'm trying to tell you, Radha. And so I saw him last night, and he was like, I love being right. So I did not know. My intention is never to make someone laugh. My intention is to be as honest as possible and to not be afraid to point my attention in places that are uncomfortable. You know, it's funny about laughter. As a theater artist, creating laughter in an audience, I kind of paid for that. I remember getting a review in the Times where someone said about a play I wrote called Seed. Somebody here might have seen it. And okay, somebody might have seen that play. The reviewer said, I wish this writer would just stop going for the laughs all the time. I wasn't. What that writer, who is not black or from Harlem or New York, doesn't understand is that black people laugh at a lot of things, not necessarily funny shit. Sometimes we laugh because something is familiar. Like when that girl turns around at the Dwayne Reed counter like this. Exactly. You know, yes. That's not about making people laugh. That's just trying to connect to something that we understand. And a lot of times reviewers don't get that. And they said, oh, this person's always trying to, the audience just kept laughing. Not because it was a comedy, but because it was familiar to them. So it's important that we have, again, more folks like us critiquing these films. When we went down the Step and Repeat, and we saw all those black and brown people asking us questions about the film, I mean, like, I just want to make sure it's inclusive so that people who maybe are speaking a little closer to the language are the people who are kind of spreading the message, you know? Because one person will say, you know, give this particular critique about the film, whereas another person will say, oh my God, it was so funny and whatever. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
I want to talk about other creative choices you made in the film. You talked about shooting in black and white, and something that also stuck out to me was with the characters in the neighborhood. You focused the camera on them and gave them these like little monologues where they were talking directly to the camera. So why were those important choices for you? Why black and white? Why that sort of like intimate, I'm going to have this moment directly talking to the audience? Like what influenced?
So the answer to the black and white question, I was raised by a cinephile. Carol Blank was my mom, is my mom still. A phenomenal artist who, you know, raised me on films like The Lost Weekend, Night of the Hunter, Repulsion, which I probably saw too soon because that movie is out there. But so seeing films in black and white is not strange to me. Citizen Kane, Diamonds in the Night, you name it. I just think for me, I wanted to make what felt like a classic New York film with us in it. Like, I'm a New Yorker. I look at Woody Allen movies and I can relate because I'm a New Yorker, but I'm not in those films. So black and white is about adding to that canon, but also retrofitting a film into that. And then, you know, aside from the fact that, you know, black and brown people look so fucking good in black and white, just sumptuous, like the shades of gray. Aside from that, I wanted to give hip hop as a culture a kind of sophisticated, human, you know, more vulnerable treatment. Because I feel like how we encounter hip hop a lot in the mainstream tends to be like oversaturated, oversexualized, very loud, and the humanity sometimes, you know, at least from the mainstream, is missing. And so I feel like if it's in black and white, then you're kind of forced to confront a certain level of humanity that you also don't often see in, you know, films where hip hop culture is reflected. And then in terms of the Greek chorus, like, you know, I'm a big fan of, is it Christopher Guest? mockumentaries. Like I really want to make mockumentary films, and so having that Greek chorus, like the real Harlem people talk to camera, gives us that. I mean, Eric Bronco and I, my amazing DP, we really studied and talked about like what makes something a documentary, what makes it a mockumentary, and for those films, oftentimes like the camera just shows up as a conversation is happening. So I wanted it to feel immediate. A lot of handheld, a lot of swipes, a lot of one takes. I remember we were shooting and we had done like a oneer, and the actors all looked at each other like, oh shit. Like no coverage. So it made it more urgent, but I think like, you know, for me, 65% of the job is hiring the right actors. It wasn't something they couldn't handle. And I think if you saw the movie, you see them shine. So, yeah.
One thing that stuck out to me was your use of location. I'm a New Yorker. I'm from Brooklyn, from Bed-Stuy, and when you work, well, there's always someone from Brooklyn, anywhere you go. But when you were coming out of the train station at Rockaway Ave, I felt like a visceral reaction to that. And so can you talk about the distinct choices that you made on like what locations to get, what street signs to get, what music to get? Like when I heard Tribe, it's just like so New York. Like what?
Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Guy Route. That's my amazing music supervisor, who I think is sitting in the back. You know, like Electric Relaxation as a video was on my list of like, you know, comps or things that inspired me. And I knew that if it was a conversation of like, what kind of music do we play to start this film? What kind of music? And he's like, yo, like Electric Relaxation. And it made so much sense because then the people, especially from a certain generation of music, know what I'm doing. Especially when you see the old school bus. You're like, wait a minute, does this take place now or the 90s? I'm not sure. So that music very early on helped to establish like what generation of hip hop I come from. You know, and then the other question was about location. Yeah, like, see, but that's why I did that. I did it for you. I'm dead ass when I say that. I'm from New York, so I say dead ass. But no, seriously, I think one of the compliments that we got last night, I think you might have heard this too, was like, yo, it's so black, yo. It's so black. And not just black, but specific. A specific black experience. And so that Rockaway Avenue is there because, okay, everyone doesn't get it, but you know that we really shot that shit in Brownsville. And I remember when we were first going over the script, I can't remember who we were talking about it with. It says Brownsville, Brooklyn. Like, okay, so where are we going to shoot to be Brownsville, Brooklyn? I said, we're shooting in Brownsville, Brooklyn. And sure enough, and just received the most amazing welcome. The people there were so sweet and warm and excited. And then when some of them saw the Lena Waithe walking down onto my set, they were like, hold up, ain't that the girl? Hey, I know you. You know, so it was a way to be like, hey, we're here. We can make films in our own communities and celebrate them. And the film, like, we go to Brownsville, Brooklyn, so a scary part of the Bronx, Midtown, Harlem. Like, the only place we didn't shoot was Long Island and Staten Island. Sorry, God. Next time, we'll get the woo in there.
I mean, people are already asking for there to be a TV show, so we'll
Say
see.
it again?
People are already asking for there to be a TV show, so we'll see what happens.
Girl,
But
child.
also in terms of locations, though, what I love is like I don't know how many here saw the movie last night, but her apartment is her apartment. We shot in Radha's actual apartment.
Hopefully not for long if we sell this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Nah. The calls we've been getting, you won't be in that apartment for long. But you know, but I think to me that's what's so special about it and so authentic is that like when we wrapped that last night, like we went back into like the cameras left and we went back into the apartment. It was just like it felt so throwback, you know. And I think that's what's so exciting about it. With the reviews, obviously, with it raving and really wonderful and kind. I think it's like it feels like so now, but it also feels like what we've been missing, and what we used to have. You know, Radha, I think, sort of is bringing back all those things that we forgot about. That authenticity, you know, again, it's like I was telling people last night, is like the artwork, her mom's artwork is in the film. You know, the guy who plays her brother, is her actual brother. It's like her blood is on the celluloid, and I think that's why it's going to last forever.
Ooh, blood on the celluloid. That sounds like a book. You gonna write that? How we survived The film industry, blood on the celluloid. Or it sounds like the beginning of a poem. Like, there was blood on the celluloid.
Yes. Her
That's
head
what happens
wrap,
when
her
she and
head
I.
wrap was dipping Harriet's
The
up in
head
sweat.
wrap, right.
Um,
That's why people don't like going to movies. Like when we're in the audience, we're like, "Oh, come on!" I mean, sorry.
Here's the best experience ever, though. We went to a tastemaker screening of Get Out. We saw Get Out like 2 weeks before it came out. So like us, like, and because they were like asking me to go to tastemaker, I was like, Roddy, you want to come see this movie with me? And you came. And it was just like, but it was the most amazing experience ever. Just to watch it. Can you imagine watching Get Out like before it comes out in the world with Radha? But it's like the thing is like we walked out of there, and I remember you saying you were like, oh man, a fire has been lit. And I was like, and that to me is what I think great art is supposed to do. Even though the fire was already there, I think it just sort of did a thing that you were just like,
Well, yeah, I think there
Let's
was
go.
like one. I think
we weren't even talking about doing the movie yet. We were just,
no, we were just hanging out or whatever. But I think, yeah, I get to hang out with thee, Lena Waithe. Oh my God. No, but I think for me, I always want part of my what the kind of impact I want to have as an artist is not to just touch people with the art, but to also demystify the process. And so to have Jordan Peele, remember the first thing he said was, "I know, I can't believe white people let me make this movie."
this is crazy.
This is crazy. I can't believe I'm sitting here and they let me make this. And it was this idea of the veil coming down, like, this shit is possible. You just think about, like, the impact that movie had on the industry. Now everybody's doing Get Out, and they're doing Get Out with all white cast, too. Like, everybody's doing Get Out. Everybody wants to do stuff that's charged around race, and it was from that one artist having someone say, go ahead, I trust you. You're coming for my people? Go ahead and do it. I still trust you, and it was a very, very, you can't deny how smart it was in attacking race. And so something did happen there where I was like, So it can be in the ether. It's not about like, oh, I'm offending people and that's why people are turning away. I know why people had a hard time getting on board with the movie. Someone like me is in the lead. That doesn't happen all the time. I think we want to make movies palatable. We want to make, first, I think I'm fuckable, but you know what I'm saying? Like the business has an idea of what is attractive and who can fall in love with whom. And, there's people already have an idea when you say hip hop or whatever, what it's going to be. And a person reading, when they're being challenged by that, the job then is to go out and challenge other people. And some people just aren't up for the job. Your loss. Yeah. Anyway.
I'm glad you brought up the Jordan Peele quote. Like, I can't believe someone let me make this.
You can say white people, girl, because that's what he said. Sorry.
No, but I wanted to ask Lena, because one thing that film really does well is it talks about like this idea of gatekeeping, right? And who you have to schmooze with and talk to. And so ostensibly in creating Hillman Grad Productions, you were trying to get around that, right? So can you talk about the thought behind creating your own production company and sort of like what you're hoping to sort of bring about, like more films like the 40-year-old version and such?
Well, look, I mean, I've talked about this in the press before. It's like, look, I fuck with Plan B, but like, why can't we have a black version of it across the street? And again, I respect what they're doing, and they made some really cool movies. But to me, there's just something about sitting across from another black person, but also the fact that I kind of have a 360 view. Like, I've been an actor on a set solely. I've been a producer on a set. I've been a writer on a set, and so I know how each of those things feels. And I also know, I think as an artist, because I'm a person that does it as well, I often know what artists need. And every artist needs different things. Some artists need me to hold their hand a little bit more. Some artists say, like, I don't need, you let me go. It really is like having children that you love equally, but you have to love them all differently. And so for me, my mission is to figure out, what does this director need from us, really. Rishi and I really do have conversations about it constantly. And we have conversations about, like, okay, so this writer is sort of like going through this thing right now, like, let's give him some space, you know what I'm saying? Or sometimes writers like say, like, bug me, like, if you want a thing from me, like like with Kid Fury, who we love, we're like, Fury, we need this thing right now, you know what I'm saying? And I'll call him and say, like, what's going on? You just call me, if you need some help, we need to brainstorm, I got that too. We really try to really be the producer that the director needs. Not just well, this is what we want for this thing, this is what we want for that. That really is not our job. Our job really is to be protectors. Our job is to make sure these artists have what they need, and our job is also to get out of the motherfucking way. It really is true. That's sort of our motto. But I think with Hillman Grad Productions is, like, to me, I feel like people like Radha, I think there are certain production companies, like even a Plan B. You know, and I don't know if Jeremy was here, he like punched me, but the truth is he may not be able to see what I see in Radha. Just because he comes from a different vantage point. You know, and so for me, I look at Radha and go, oh, she's gold. Like, she's a star. Like, she should be out there. But I think I see that in a way that other people don't. And for me, I'm grateful that we were the producers on it, because I don't think the movie would have been what it is had we not done it. And I think, to me, that's why I think Hillman Grad Productions is important, because we're not just a production company trying to, like, just grab, you know, and we're also a production company that just doesn't only do, like, black things. Like, you know, like, obviously Rishi is, you know, is Indian, and he's like, why don't we do this story? We're doing something called, like, an Indian, like, wedding story, you know, because he's like, that is a story that often doesn't get told. And I was like, cool, let's do it. That's great. And so we're just always trying to do stories that are just interesting and told from different points of view, and I just don't see anyone else doing that. And also, too, we are task masters. We believe, our other motto is always be shooting. So there's another thing too, where a lot of production companies, sometimes it's more vanity, or they will develop a thing within an inch of its life, and then it comes out not that good. So our thing is like, look, and I don't ever want to put something out too soon, but my mission is, like, if it's there, if it's good and it's interesting, like, we're always like, where are the squeaky wheels? Like, why isn't this deal done? Why don't we have this actors thing signed? Like, what's happening here? Because we just don't waste time, and we're also aggressive. You know, it's like, we're gonna be on you, like, you sure, what's going on, what's happening, whatever. Other places are like, oh, well, we'll get to that, we'll get to you. The reason why I think we're putting out so much stuff, and our thing is not about, you know, quantity. It is about quality, but there's a lot of quality stuff out there that folks are just kind of like, you know, sort of like taking their time trying to get to it. And certain people, they were just taking too long to me with Radha's movie, and I was like, we can get this done.
I mean, how long can I play 39? Shit, you know, like, Jesus. The skin is tight, but now we're pushing it in my 50s. Like, come on. Also, I think, you know, like, I guess I have a question then for you, if you don't mind. It's like, how do we replicate this model? You know, like, how do we build on what you and Rishi are doing? Like, what the kind of work you're doing is not groundbreaking in that you're making films like everybody else, but the films that you're choosing to make and the style in which you're doing it, like, how do we replicate the model?
I honestly think for us, FYOV is a flagship movie. It really is. It is really sort of Hillman Grad.
This is the standard.
Yeah, it really is sort of our first sort of, I think, real entryway, because even though, yes, I produce Dear White People, but this is like the first time for us as a company, you know, and obviously for the film to be doing so well, and for Radha obviously to be the star that she is. And it really does say, I think, to the industry, it says to the community, obviously it's already said it, made it very clear to Sundance, like, we're here, but this is how we choose to show up. We show up authentically, we show up, you know, with creative freedom, and we show up with black, queer money, you know, when it makes sense, you know what I'm saying? And so, and I think we just show up in a very pure, authentic way, but I think this is the beginning. You know, our hope is that obviously we're going to be very mindful about this sale and how we do it and how we set it up. And also, too, it's not just this, but it's about how the movie comes out. You know what I'm saying? We want to be very involved in the marketing. We want to be very involved in, like, how the rollout is and how it's received, and, you know, doing events and things like that. And then ultimately how it does. Like, those things will really help us to build, because what happens is that we work in a business of copycats. That's just what we do. If one thing is a hit show, then you see 8 more of them. So our thing is like, we want this movie to come out and do well, and have, you know, and hopefully possibly do Radha's next film, maybe, if she wants to do that. Because we also want to be a place too where filmmakers want to come back. You know, that's our mission as well. We don't want to be a one-time thing. Like, we want filmmakers to go, I want to come back and do a movie with you guys again because the experience before was so great. Like, we really look at it like we want a 5-star Uber rating. Like, we really want you to feel good when you get out the car. But ultimately, that'll be the thing. Is like we want other places to kind of call us, and they already are. They're already calling us saying, how'd you get this done? Or what was this? We want to tell them, like, and the big thing we're really pushing to these other producers is like, leave your people alone. Leave them alone, because there's too many producers like trying to say, well, do it like this, or what about that, and it makes the artist frustrated and they don't trust. So that's what we're really trying to do, is just really like sort of provide a safe space for artists to come in and do their thing, and make sure they have enough money to do what they got to do too.
And just to add something that was kind of just popped in my mind is like, for people who cannot start a production company, you know, like, I think for production companies, just get smart and be inclusive. Like, hire people of color and trust that they may have an understanding of a particular project that you don't. Right. And that you could learn something. Like, there's a whole audience there. And so, like, you can empower the young executives or the development people at a company by just trusting them. And when they bring material to you, listen to them. You know what I mean? Like, what's going to be interesting are the reviews. I don't give them too much credence. To me, it's not a perfect film, but it's perfectly mine, and I love it. And I love the work that we all did together, right? But the reviews will be very interesting. Just the kind of language people use when they don't understand something, right? And that's why, again, we have to have more Travels in the piece who can say, "Oh my God, I saw myself," or "This is so Harlem." You know what I mean? Like, be inclusive. It's gonna get you paid. Like, what the fuck? Like, put more of us in a position of power at your companies so that we can maybe decode and translate and let you know, like, oh no, there's an audience for this. If you would just give it a chance, like, you know, we should have a version of The Witch and all of these very interesting stories. And there are executives who want to bring those kind of stories within the companies that they're at. But from what I hear, they don't feel heard, you know, or they're sent out to go and do the copycat version, black version of something that was a hit, you know. So, you know, for those who cannot start the company, that's how the company starts, because that's who Rishi was at one point. Right. He was that development executive who maybe didn't feel as empowered as he does now, but it starts there. Right. You know, that the seeds were planted there so that when he breaks out, he knows exactly how to support the artist that he had to say, sorry, I love your shit, but we can't get behind it. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also I think the development process right now is just killing a lot of art. You know, I think that's why we got the response that we got last night. They were like, oh, God, what's the secret? It's like no whack notes, man. You know? And also, too, even like I know Radha was pushing us, like even me, she was like, well, give me your notes, give me your stuff. Because I think, again, you're so trained to like get that. And I remember telling her, I was like, look, you can note yourself. You know what this movie is. I like it. I dig it. Like, okay, hey, the pacing can be picked up here. You can do that there. But, like, ultimately, you got to find the movie. Right. I gave you everything you need. Go find it, and we'll get it out there.
And I'll tell you something about that. I feel like doing that for an artist makes them even more open to when you do eventually have notes. You know, you let them feel like, well, I decided to support this project because I trusted you from the beginning. Yeah. So continue doing what it is that you do. And then when they come back and have notes, you're like, okay, this is good. You know, like I'm open to it because you gave me so much freedom in this other area.
It also felt too early to try to give. I was just like, I don't want to fuck it up. I was like, you got to sit with it and do your thing. I was just like, I don't want to give you a note that then gets in your head and then fucks up the whole thing.
That's exactly. We were just talking to Dee Reese before you guys got here, and she said she doesn't give actors notes on the first take. She's like, take it where you want to, and then we can talk about it. Because to your point, you get in your head, and then it's like you're trying to, you know, translate with.
And then that's my shit. That's my vision. That's my perspective, which I don't want to see in Radha's movie.
Right. I want to open it to questions now. We have a microphone going around. Carly.
Yes. Wait, is this on? We can hear you. Oh, okay. Oh, there we go. So my question is for you, Radha. Well, thank you for making a movie that I recognize as the New York that I've lived in for a long time. I thank you for that. That was just amazing. Could you talk some wisdom about your journey to this point, just from your? I know, you don't like answering.
We got like 2 minutes left.
Okay, but just some wisdom, because it was a really long journey, and I think about a lot of times it's like, oh, this movie is great and everyone sees it, but there's just you just are full of wisdom. So can you just share with us
right, like
a
I
couple
think
things?
when something happens, when somebody sees something, that's the first time they're getting acquainted.
Yeah.
So they assume that, oh, look at this person who's new on the scene. But like, I've been at this for a very, very long time. I have no problem with that though, because I think if the film is good, that is why. Is because I've had the time to really develop my voice and know what it is I want to say. I was one of the older fellows at the Sundance Lab, and I think even my advisors were surprised that, like, no, I want to do this. You know what I mean? I think they were used to maybe more malleable or younger, very hungry seekers of. My thing was like, I don't need you to tell me, what my story is. Ask me what it is I want to do, and then help me achieve it. Tell me how to get that done. I know what I want to say. Tell me how to get it done. But just in terms of the journey, like, I don't know. I don't regret any of it. I was a stand-up comic. I was doing theater. I was writing in TV, and I feel like it's all come to this moment. It's all culminated to this moment, and so I don't have any regrets. I'm not gonna lie and act like I don't like it when people ask me my age or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And the reason I say that is because there always seems to be a price for it. Like all of a sudden you're not considered for a role or a job because you're such and such age. You know what I'm saying? First of all, I moisturize, and I'm black. So I'm always going to look young. Get over that shit. You know what I'm saying? I hope that answers your question.
It does. And sorry, Lena, question. So we have this change in terms of we see the economic results of these movies that are telling authentic, diverse stories, right? The money is there. And then you said something earlier, I think you were talking about Plan B and like the limited perspective to see someone like Radha as like the big fucking star that she is. How do we reconcile those two concepts, right? It seems to me that the gatekeepers, the doors seem barricaded, locked, jammed, even though the money, clearly, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what runs this country, but something about this feels like it's not just about economics, but something much deeper and much more profound.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are afraid to take risks, and I think, or people have an idea of who they want. There's the thing I always say, what kind of black person are you?
Ooh.
You know what I mean? So it's like, there's certain kind of black people that Hollywood prefers. And I don't necessarily know if Rod and I are those black people. Or maybe they thought I was one of those black people and then let me in and realized I wasn't. So I think, I think that to me is a very interesting thing. I'm always paying attention to which, if you're a black person that too many white folks like, I'm a little curious about it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that to me is a bit of a thing where I look at Radha and like here we go. This is like what more could somebody want? Like, and I was always obsessed. Like Radha knows, I would come to the front and just be like, where's the fucking show? What's going on? Because this is crazy. But that's from the seat that I'm sitting in. That makes sense to me. But there are other people that may look at it and go, well, we've already had Whoopi. We've done that. That's what people think. They don't realize how special and how amazing she is until you let her loose, until you can see what that thing is. But it's going to continue. I know this isn't the first and only. There's going to continue to be artists that the industry is going to say no. Even people of color, I think, didn't quite really know what to do with Radha. You know what I'm saying? It ain't just white folks. Sometimes because there are those black execs that wear the logo of the studio they work for that's tatted on their neck, and they like, this is my brand, this is my identity. Fuck it, they all plantations. You know what I'm saying?
I knew that Harriet Tubman was gonna come out. You just give it like 10 minutes.
They all plantations to me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like at the end of the day, it's like, how much can we make to go, get off the land? You know what I'm saying? Live on and find and buy our own 40 acres. Because that to me is what I'm saying. Because even like with black execs, there's a fear. They don't want to like bet on it. They don't want to fight. They trying to keep their jobs. They make lovely, they make good money. They drive nice cars. They sit in beautiful offices with nice views. I don't care about it. I don't have, my office is wherever I'm at. It's wherever I'm at. And so to me, it's like, fuck it. Even if they try to like push me out, I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna be like, Rosa. You know what I'm saying? Going out the door like, you Rodimus Prime. You this shit. That's me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I feel about it. And it's like, even if they pull me out, dragging and screaming, at least you can say I left something behind. You know what I'm saying? That was worthy of us looking at. Because at the end of the day, this movie to me, what I love what Radha did is like she immortalized us. She immortalized us. She immortalized herself, but she really immortalized, that black woman, man, who's like, walking down the street talking shit, the homeless guy talking trash, the kids at the like nobody wants to immortalize us because they want us to be forgotten. And that's a big thing to me too, with these conversations about like we kind of get back to that weird thing where I think our community sometimes only wants to see the good in us. And I just refuse to let pieces of our community be invisible anymore. You know what I mean? That's why I love the Toni Morrison documentary. We're talking about Invisible Man. She said, invisible to who? You weren't invisible to us, So I think to me, it's like, that's what I love as artists and what we do is we make sure that nobody forgets that we were here. And that's to me what FYOV is really about.
I just have to tell this story real quick. When I finally said yes to Lena and Rishi, and I'm telling on you, we had a meeting at a particular streaming service, and it was probably the first time I was in a meeting with you. And you were like, and y'all need to make this movie, and she's the one. If y'all don't, and speaking of Plantation, I immediately was like, she gon' get us in trouble talking like that. She was like, and I said, and I just kept shrinking like, oh shit. She gonna get my foot cut off. I mean, she's fearless. She's fearless, and even though I've known I wanted to tell the story, there's nobody to tell the story like that but me and like me, I've not had that energy. But being around her and Rishi, it does reinvigorate that thing. Like, yeah, fuck that. No, I'm shooting this shit in black and white. I don't care how many Oscar-winning advisors tell me not to do it. Like, I'm gonna do it.
Roma was black and white.
Shit, right? Exactly.
I think we have another question here.
Hi, Radha.
Hi.
So I wanted
Stacy,
to know,
one of the stars of
Give it up.
FYOV, 40-year-old version.
coming out of the theater, like shooting the scene that we did at the Signature Theater that day, I was like, it was very meta.
Right.
And knowing the rejection that you faced from the theater community, I'm curious to know now that you have debuted your film, is there a conversation? Are there people from the theater community now coming to you? No, okay.
They haven't seen the film yet.
Will,
so
though.
I feel like they either gonna want to produce me or never produce me again. But how ironic was it that the worst play I've ever written finally got produced on that off-Broadway stage in the movie. No, it's interesting. I just hope that the theater community sees themselves. They're not afraid to look and see themselves. So much of the conversation is verbatim. One of the things I would hear all the time when I get rejected is, oh, this play about this family dealing with the institutional racism around the community is really good. I love it. It's very powerful. What else you got? And that what else you got, like, that was a line. It was a montage in an old version where I'm sitting with, literary agents or whatever, literary managers at theaters, and they're like, this was so amazing. I cried. I was so moved. What else do you have that I could read? And it's just like, bitch, that shit took me 6 years to write. And you want to know what else I got? I mean, because it becomes a factory, and because most theater is, there's not a lot of money there. It's, there's this queue, especially with black people concerned. And when we show up on the stage, it tends to be black theater that affirms a certain level of blackness to the silver-haired patrons of that theater.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's really interesting too. Is that I was talking to Michael Ellenberg, who used to run drama over at HBO, who was in the audience, and he called me this morning, woke me up to tell me how much he loved the movie, and he's like the whitest guy ever. But he said he's like, I think my mom is gonna love the movie because he's also like a white New York upper type of situation. But he's like, the thing about it is, he's like, Radha is obviously speaking directly to you, and I didn't even think about this. Like, he had to actually tell me this, but he was like, but she's also speaking to me. She's also speaking to my mom and our friends in terms of who go and are the patrons of those plays. And I just thought to myself, oh, wow, I didn't even realize that, because he was like, I saw myself in it. He's like, I saw my mom, I saw, my wife in it, and I thought to myself, that's very true. And I'm a person that I do like going to theater or go see shows. We went to go see opening night of The Inheritance in New York. I love theater so much. And the truth is, I'm always looking for myself when I go to New York. And the thing is, like, either it's Temptations or Slave Play. It's like
Singing and dancing or running from the whip.
You know what I'm saying?
Or war-torn Africa. No, it's true. I'm sorry.
But it's like and really it is like blatant in theater world. I mean, if you think about like what's on stage, and again, what kind of black people are allowed on stage in theater. You know what I mean? It's like, and then it's like, yes, you have the successes of like The Color Purple, which is cool, but then it's also like but then it's like, you go all the way here, with Slave Play, or then like I know Temptations is still playing now, but it's a very interesting dynamic about what kind of shows are on, or whether it's to take it all the way back to something like Caroline or Change, about like how that was also trying to be different and bring a new sort of like voice, but also it's written by Tony Kushner. You know what I'm saying? So no shade to Tony Kushner, you know what I mean? But it's a world that hasn't really been explored, and that's why I love that as well. And I do think people are gonna. She's gonna hear from the theater community for sure. But I think no matter what, I'm not mad at the conversation that comes out of it, because it is one that needs to be had, and no one's been more fearless about it than Radha, and I'm really proud of you for that.
I think we have time for one more question.
Do it.
Thank you. Hi, Marquise. Thanks for coming out.
What's up, Marquise?
So just from this panel alone, I can see that you guys are like really tight with each other.
Sometimes.
I was wondering, when you're working with people that you know are good friends, what type of boundaries do you set, and how do you go about doing that?
Boundaries, what's that?
That's a great question. I feel like this was a little bit different because we met, in that space of Hollywood. We met in that world where we were both kind of, you were definitely further advanced as a producer than I was as a TV writer, but like we were working, I think The Chi was just kind of percolating.
Right.
But you were coming in as a executive producer of an original show. And so I felt like this was different. Like we kind of already established a rapport, and kind of were like always operating from the place of being outliers in that business.
For sure.
I think I've struggled with other, working with other people, because, a lot of my friends here, they know me as like, they come and support my work. They come, anytime I'm doing something, they show up for me. That's not a question. But we don't necessarily work together, and they don't see me work. And I don't know if I want them to see me working. It's not always pretty, and there's a reason why, like, you work with people who have a certain level of experience in the business. Your demands aren't going to cost you anything. But if it's a friendship, sometimes it's sensitive, So that's why I was a little shy about working on this particular project together. But Lena and Rishi have proven to be the best people I could have worked with. I felt so safe and protected, and even when there was tension, it was all about fighting, for the film. It wasn't bad tension. It was necessary to try to understand what it is we wanted. But I don't know. This has opened me up to work with more people that I know, like, as friends. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I say boundaries. What's that? I think it's just because this movie was too personal for us not to really look at each other in a real way. And I knew it would be an emotional experience for Radha. It's her first film. It's been a long time coming. I put money into it, and I think sometimes what happens is sometimes it's easier to chase your dream than catch it. Because no, I mean,
Thank
true.
you and good night.
It becomes your narrative.
Yes.
It becomes your narrative. And I think that had become Radha's narrative. So what I kept reminding you on the phone was, I said, change your fucking narrative. You are a filmmaker now. You are a leader of an army. They are troops that are willing to follow you into battle. Don't let anyone slip. We cannot leave a man behind. And right now, I'm the general, because you're freaking out right now, but I'm not going to leave you behind either. Like, I get it. If you want to be upset, you want to be hurt, then let's do it right now. Let's do it on the phone. Let's get it. You're a wolf. You are a wolf. We are a wolf pack. It's okay. We all do that. We all fall down. Like we gonna get bruises and whatever. They're battle scars that we will cherish for the rest of our lives. Let's get back in the game. And so that's really what I was. I felt like I was almost like a coach, or I was her Diddy in a way. But I was always in her ear, telling her like, "You are great. You are born to be great. You are strong. You are not. You are Carol's daughter. So act like it." So that's what I'm saying. There are no boundaries. Like, it's bigger than a movie. It's bigger than Sundance. This is someone's life. And because you did this, and that's why to me it's so important about, these people that we end up selling the movie to, it's more than commerce for me. So it's really about exposing it to people, because what I believe true art does is, like, you will do for another filmmaker what Get Out did for you that evening.
Right.
Where someone will look at it and go, well, it's my time now. I got to do it.
I've been given permission to go to these places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I say, like, the boundaries, it's like we just got so emotional with each other, because that's also what producing is. If you're a good producer, I don't look at artists like cattle. Like, they're me. Like, I've been there. I've been upset. I put my shit in there. Like, I've been going through a thing and had to show up on set anyway. You know what I mean? It's like, shit, y'all know what's going on with me. I'm here right now. Hi. What am I going to do? Life happens. We're human. And I think, to me, where Radha is, I always knew that, like, we in this together.
Right.
Forever. So, yeah.
And this person, I just
No,
have
Radha,
to
I'm gonna let
say,
you get the last one.
yeah, no,
please.
has never, there's not a text, a call, email she has not responded to within 20 minutes. Someone does that, I'm going to get emotional. When someone does that, when you feel like somebody is really present for you, it changes your whole makeup, And I just want to say one last thing. What you said about chasing a dream and catching it. I come from a family of struggling artists. This was cathartic, but it was also very hard for me, because that was the identity in my family. So we always struggled. And here is a person who is now at Sundance. Their film is in competition. So it's about divorcing myself from an identity, and that is what I struggled with in making the movie, to be honest. It was more emotional, like letting go of the character that I played in the film. I'm not that person. I haven't been that person for 6 or 7 years. So I was acting, guys. I was acting. But I could not have asked for a better outcome with this team of producers, with the crew, the cast. Everyone had that level of investment and love for the project. Not for me, for the project, because it was ours. Yeah.
Thank you, Radha. Thank you,
Thank you.
Lena.